they drove so similar. You could see all the different types of corners, the way you struck the curb. It was very, very similar. So let's break down this video into 3 different segments. We'll let's say separate it into braking, mid-corner performance, and on-throttle performance. And you know, I just have to say, I've been using the iRacing AMG GT4 as a prep tool for my real-life races in the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge, and I knew going into this that they were going to be very close in terms of lap time and just the way they felt. So so happy to report that, and doing this test will just confirm it. Let's break it down a little bit more. In terms of braking, it's really, really close. The pressure, the way you have to get onto the brake, the cadence of how you go onto the brake pedal, the peak force, everything's so similar. It feels exactly the same. Breaking it down on a more technical level, even in terms of weight distribution and how you have to have the car positioned in order to get the maximum braking efficiency, is the same. The GT4 car is very, very sensitive to body roll, especially on the front tires as you initially go on the brake pedal. So in the GT4 car on iRacing, it's very much the same. You'll notice that if you drive the car and you're just turning a little bit, then going on the brake, it doesn't slow down as much as if you have the car perfectly balanced on both front tires as you decelerate. It slows down a lot more effectively when you have the balance in the front tires. So the same thing for the real life GT4. It doesn't really like any body roll with initial brake application. And I mean, for me, that's what makes it so good as a training tool. And really, when you think about racing sims or driving sims, it all starts from braking. The brake pedal dictates how the car reacts through the corner. So for me, it's an A+. I mean, rating it out of 10, it's like a 9.5. It's nearly perfect in terms of how it feels on the sim versus real life. For mid-corner performance, the grip level's very similar. You could see just the way the car was reacting through the corner, the way I was working my hands. You can't over push the car on entry into the mid-corner. The GT4 car is, at the end of the day, it's production car base. So it's very much a road car that's been massaged into a race car. So you have to always remember that. And it's quite different from the GT3, where you absolutely attack the corner and you're really hustling the car. Whereas, you know, in the GT4, you're not really attacking, you're not so aggressive, you're really backing it off, dialing down that aggression on entry, and trying to keep the tires in check with the road. You don't want to slide the car too much, because once you go over that threshold and you slide too much, the grip's gone. So you have to really underdrive the car, and that's probably the hardest thing about GT4 is if you're coming from a faster class car, it's really hard to dial down your aggression level and try to just drive under the limit, drive the car as if you're on a rail and not over that hard limit. So mid-corner performance is really, really close for me. Of course, the tires, I've mentioned this in my other video, my GT3 comparison. The tires can definitely be a little bit better. It feels a little numb in the middle of the corner, almost like you don't know where the grip is going to just cut off. So I think that with a little bit of fine tuning, just having a better feeling of where that grip drop off is, it will help so much in having a better connection to the road and just giving the driver a better feedback. Rating the mid-corner performance out of 10, I'll give it like a 7 out of 10. Like I said, with the tires, I think that there's a little bit of margin to improve, but for the most part, just for me on the brakes and getting into the middle of the corner, the level of aggression is very similar to how you would drive in real life, and for that, I think it's around a 7 out of 10. So lastly, we need to talk about the on-throttle performance, and it is actually surprisingly accurate. I couldn't believe this is probably one of the cars in iRacing that drives as close to the GT4 as possible from sim to real life. The technique you use, getting on that throttle, opening up the throttle, locking the differential, making the car rotate, the way it actually rotates on throttle off the corner it's wild how close they are. I couldn't believe that You know, I thought it was just an iRacing thing. When I got into the real car, it was so responsive to a little bit of initial throttle application. So, you know, 40-50% of throttle application, and then feeding in the rest. The car reacted so well. It actually just took it from a numb front end to a really nice rotation off the corner. If you go too much throttle application off too early, you'll get like a really nice rotation, but at one point the rear just gives out. And it's very similar. It happens in iRacing. So the technique on throttle is incredibly close. It's so good for me. I'm so happy that I have this tool that I can train with, you know, going into race weekends. I actually train with my teammate in the GT4 series before every single race, and it does translate. It shows that the hard work we put in on the sim actually plays a big role in our performance on the track. So, you know, taking all those into account, and now the on-throttle performance, I'm going to give it like a 9 out of 10. Very, very good. Of course, the tires, that's probably the only thing. Just having a little bit more feeling for when that grip's going to go would make a huge difference in, again, driver feedback and having that connection to the game. But overall, really strong scores. I would say that, I mean, I was pretty surprised to be honest, how good it was, and I would say it's probably one of the closest cars you can get on the simulator to the real. Thank you guys so much for watching that video. Hopefully it gave you a little bit of an insight as to how the GT4 drives. You know, I mentioned how close it is. Of course, it's not so easy like just driving the sim and just jumping to the real car. I think the experience that I have in the past driving various different cars across my career just helps me connect the two really, really well. And you know, it's not exactly one-to-one. Of course, there's the seat of your pants feeling you get in real life, and of course the fear factor that you would have to get over if you're not used to it. You know, I would say that the biggest difference is just the shock factor on your body when you accelerate, when you hit the throttle pedal, when you hit the brakes, going into a corner at 250 or 260 kilometers an hour, and, you know, trusting that the car is going to hold. It's something you can't really replicate on a simulator. It's the only way to do it and to get a feeling for that is to actually do it in real life. But of course, there are limitations, and I totally understand that. But to be honest, if you want a real life experience and you want to get as close to reality as possible, I think the Mercedes-AMG GT4 in iRacing is as close as you're going to get to driving the real car. And yeah, I mean, I'm just thoroughly impressed with it, and can't wait to see the next steps that iRacing will take to improve the tires and to improve the experience. And I know that a lot of you in the comments are going to say that I'm a huge fanboy of iRacing, and that, you know, I've heard comments saying that I work for them. To be honest, I think that would be cool, but the only reason I'm saying these things is because I truly believe it actually is the best platform. There's no other reason. I don't need to do this stuff. I'm only sharing my personal experience and my personal feedback as a real life race car driver, and you know, just sharing my experience across both platforms, sim racing and real life. So before you start roasting me or trying to roast me in the comments saying that I'm in love with iRacing, the only reason I'm doing this is because I genuinely think that it is the best platform at the moment. I would love to see more competition in the future, but yeah, I mean, it's really, really cool. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, this comparison. It was a lot of fun for me, and I'm gonna jump back on the sim and run some more laps getting ready for my next races.
If you do have an offset and you have a clutch on the left side, just make sure that you're aligning your body straight on with the pedals. Or if you can move your pedals across a little bit more to open that up and get that alignment a little bit straighter onto the brake and the throttle, then that will help.
Ok, lo fermiamo un attimo. Allora, facciamo un po' il punto della situazione.
Help eliminate the pain, specifically in the braking leg, because
fermati, eccolo lì. Allora, aspetta che tolgo. C'è l'automatismo forse. Quindi, sì, eccolo qua. Aspetta, mettiamo un attimino più indietro. No, qui sa un po' di fetish. Io devo sempre scherzare un pochettino. Non c'è un modo di mettere un bel fermo immagine dove si veda. Mamma mia, quante espressioni fai, Daniel? Belle, tutte belle espressioni, però accidenti, viso molto espressivo. Comunque, allora, abbiamo visto un po' Daniel che faceva vedere appunto la differenza più o meno di guida, cioè tra il reale e il simulatore. Diceva appunto che comunque lui parlava di iRacing che è molto, molto realistico, che ci sono delle cose ovviamente che mancano, e quello lo sappiamo tutti, le forze, insomma. Il succo del discorso alla fine non è che vi sto a fare una traduzione, non ve la saprei fare perché non sono un traduttore quindi non posso farvi una traduzione, mi dispiace. Però insomma io credo che comunque anche dalle immagini, alla fine dalle parole che usa, che comunque sono comuni nel sim racing e nelle gare, si capisce cosa il significato. Poi comunque vi rimanda al suo canale dove potete attivare il traduttore automatico. Io non so perché ho provato stasera, non funziona, e probabilmente è perché non ho impostato qualcosa sulle impostazioni dello streaming, probabilmente ho dimenticato altrimenti ci sarebbe stata anche la traduzione simultanea, perché comunque è importante capire bene anche il suo discorso. Quindi se non avete capito che con l'inglese non avete confidenza, potete andare ovviamente sul suo canale ufficiale. Quindi se fate su YouTube @ Daniel Morad, io ora ve lo pronuncio come scritto, così almeno lo scrivete in maniera più facile, fate prima @ Daniel Morad, tutto attaccato, lo trovate subito il suo canale, e lì potete attivare il traduttore simultaneo automatico inglese e italiano, che poi lui è canadese, quindi già è un inglese leggermente diverso rispetto a quello che sono abituato ad ascoltare io. Però ora credo che la puntata andava sulle posizioni da tenere, diciamo, sul sedile di guida, quindi le posizioni in maniera da stare seduti correttamente per non aver problemi, perché poi se no saltano fuori i dolori e comunque ci si muove male, si diventa anche più lenti. Andiamo avanti nel filmato, vediamo allora dov'era che cominciava qua, se non sbaglio. Sì, eccolo qua. Lo facciamo ripartire.
Experience, and I know that a lot of you in the comments are going to say I'm a huge fanboy of iRacing, and that, you know, I've heard comments saying that I work for them. To be honest, I think that would be cool, but the only reason I'm saying these things is because I truly believe it actually is the best platform. There's no other reason. I don't need to do this stuff. I'm only sharing my personal experience and my personal feedback as a real life race car driver, and you know, just sharing my experience across both platforms, sim racing and real life. So before you start roasting me or trying to roast me in the comments saying that I'm in love with iRacing, the only reason I'm doing this is because I genuinely think that it is the best platform at the moment. I would love to see more competition in the future, but yeah, I mean, it's really, really cool, and yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, this comparison. It was a lot of fun for me, and I'm going to jump back on the sim and run some more laps getting ready for my next races.
If you do have an offset and you have a clutch on the left side, just make sure that you're aligning your body straight on with the pedals. Or if you can move your pedals across a little bit more to open that up and get that alignment a little bit straighter onto the brake and the throttle, then that will help eliminate the pain, specifically in the braking leg, because whether you use right foot or left foot, if you're not lined up, you're using a lot of force. And imagine if your joints are not lined up, you're gonna create excessive pain and strain on your joints. So just make sure that you're lining yourself up with those pedals nice and square, and you should eliminate all knee pain in the future. Now, moving up a little bit further on the body, let's talk about lower back pain. This is something that I struggle with. Being in this position, hunched over and kind of in this seat, it's not the most ergonomically friendly position, but you can mitigate that with reducing that gap in your lower back in the lumbar section. Typically, what happens when you're driving is when you brake, your back actually pops off the seat, right? There's a little pocket, and when you brake, all the pressure's in your upper back and in your leg, and you tend to arch your back. So that constant arching and pushing and moving creates a lot of strain on your lower back. To help mitigate that, there's two things you can do. Number one, align yourself so that your legs are roughly at a 90-degree angle with your torso. That's going to really help keep the stability in the lower back and make sure that you're not overly working the back. If you're too stretched, you can actually just practice this at home right now while you're watching this. If you sit down and you kind of like extend yourself out and you get rid of this angle in your legs to back, you'll actually feel that arch in your lower back. Now on the other side of it, if you're too cramped up, then you're going to be straining and pulling your lower back. So you want to make sure you have that nice balance between just too much arch or too much curling in your lower back. And that's going to help eliminate the lower back pain, as well as potentially even in your bucket seats, removing some of the padding in the back or the material of your seat and inserting some memory foam. That's what I actually do with this seat. I've inserted some memory foam in the lower back area just to make sure that I limit how much of a gap there is in my lumbar area of my back. So hopefully that helps for you and it eliminates your back pain. Let's talk about your hands and wrists. We'll start with the hands and move to the wrists. I think the hands, it's an easy one. Death grip, as we know it in the racing community. When you're gripping the wheel and you're really, really squeezing it, you tend to get a lot of fatigue in your hands. Now, again, not really meant to be an ad. You can use any kind of glove. It just so happens that we have Moradna sim racing gloves. Again, they're going to be in the description. So if you're interested in that, you can take a look. But the gloves tend to help because there's cushioning on them and there's actually grip. So you don't have to death grip the wheel when you're sweating. You can just have a nice loose grip. And when I'm driving, I actually drive with my palms. I don't drive with my fingers. I actually just squeeze my palms into the grip of the wheel. I use my thumbs to hook, and my fingers are nice and loose. So I'm actually not even squeezing with my fingers. I'm more so pushing with my palms into the wheel, and that's gonna help me feel all the little details in the wheel with the force feedback while keeping my hands free and feeling the wheel move within my hands and palms. It's also not gonna fatigue my fingers and have that death grip situation where you can't take your hands off the wheel, you get the claw. So hopefully I think that's a really useful tip, just kind of pressing your hands into the wheel, using your thumbs to hook and support yourself, and then just being free with the wheel and just letting the wheel do its thing. And you're more so just guiding it. You don't want to grip it and squeeze. You just lose the feeling and the sensitivity. Now moving to the wrist. This is a little bit more in-depth and detailed. I feel like with the wrist, it can be hurting in two different ways, either the top or the bottom. And most of the time that's due to wheel angle. If you feel like you're grabbing the wheel like this, where it's maybe too angled, then it could be creating pain on the top of your wrist when you're turning. And on the other side, if you're too low with your steering wheel, then maybe you're going to create some strain on the bottom. It could even be inverse, you know. It could be that if it's too low, you're feeling pain there. Just try to play with it. Depending on where you're feeling the pain, just keep adjusting either the height or the angle of the steering wheel. And I feel like everyone's different. For me, I find that I'm nice and square with my forearm and my wrist into my wheel. And when I'm pressing, I'm not grabbing like this. I'm more so just pressing, hooking my thumbs, and just letting my fingers rest on the steering wheel. And that's how I basically eliminate all my wrist pain and my hand pain. Now, finally, let's move to the last area where I feel like you may have some fatigue, and that's your shoulder area. This is all due to, well, two things. Wheel distance away from you. Okay, if it's too far away, you're activating your shoulders a lot more. So if you can do this yourself. Drive like this, drive like that. Not even drive, just sit there, put your arms out, and kind of squeeze your arms and try to turn. You're gonna feel your shoulders really, really engaged. Now, if you go too close, then you're gonna start to use your chest a lot more, and you might feel a bit cramped. So you wanna get to the point, you can see, like, I'm not really reaching that much. I have a 90-degree bend in my arms, really, really comfortable. And when I'm turning, I'm not really using my shoulders per se 100%. I'm using my chest, my shoulder, my back. It's a nice balance between big muscle groups. So I don't really fatigue in my shoulder area because I have a nice balance between all my big muscles. My big muscles. So yeah, basically just having the distance right. And then finally, let's talk about height. So it can actually play into your wrist positioning as well, and the wrist fatigue. But if you're too high with it, you may be using too much your shoulder. And if it's too low, it may be using some awkward muscles. So try to find a nice position with your hands where you're kind of balancing out your muscle group usage. I find that in terms of wheel height, it's just at the top of my shoulder. So the top of my wheel arrives more or less at the top of my shoulder, and that's a nice, comfortable position for me. When I'm driving, I think my palm is more or less in line. So everything is in line, and there's a lot of alignment. I think that's the key. Not just with your car, but with your body. You want to make sure everything's aligned nice and straight, so you're not creating any unnecessary strain and pain on your body.
I really hope this helps you guys last longer. Of course, that's the key of this video, helping you last longer, enjoy yourself while racing, and really eliminate as much body pain as possible. If you guys enjoyed the video, let me know down below. If you have any questions in terms of ergonomics or anything I didn't cover in this video, let me know. I'll try to be
Ok, un attimo, qua mi va l'asse in tutto. Ovviamente rinnovo l'invito di andare sul suo canale, iscrivervi, insomma seguirlo perché ne vale la pena. E guardiamoci questo bellissimo video con una campioncina di rally.
Quicker on the simulator, so I'm trying to drive faster. I'm going to be trying lots of different things, but today I'm going to try a cup of English tea. The contraption on my head is monitoring my brainwaves, which you can see on the top right monitor, and I've also got a heart rate monitor on the top left. I'm trying out Silverstone because I've done it before and I've already set a time on here. So I'm going to warm up first, and then I'm going to try a cup of tea in a bit and do an hour session to see if I can drive quicker. Okay, so I've done my practice session, about 20 minutes of warm up, 25 minutes. I've done some 121s and some 120s, so not far off my personal best. I had a couple of green sections where I was quicker than my personal best, so overall I feel like I'm quite consistent now. I'm ready to have a cup of tea, so here it goes. Tea. It's going to take a while to drink. That is the quickest I've ever drunk a cup of tea. I'm absolutely boiling. Right, I'm gonna crack on and start my hour straight away, and we'll see if a cup of tea can make you quicker. So I am 10 minutes in, and at the moment I feel quite focused and quite robotic. I feel like it's helping me. I feel like I may have got a few more green sections. So yeah, at the moment I actually feel like a cup of tea is helping me. So we'll carry on with this hour.
Nella realtà so che fa i rally, fa molto i rally questa ragazza, di cui non ricordo il nome. Ora guardo un attimo sul mio canale se riesco al volo a vedere nei contatti, cioè nei contatti tra i canali seguiti, se riesco a ritrovarla al volo subito. Ci provo, tanto vi rimetto l'audio.
The old cup of tea, I've just beat my personal best. So I am just over half an hour in, and I started off with a 120, then I did a 120, a 121, and then I did a 20, 20, 20, 20, 20, 20. Yeah, I've just done a 120.075, sorry, my brain's firing a bit too quick, which is 0.2 quicker than my personal best. Big up the old cup of tea, eh? So I'll just, I'll keep going because I've still got half an hour left. So last 10 minutes now, and I'm still feeling quite focused and determined, that's for sure. I feel like I might have dropped off a little bit, but I can't figure out if that's because I've just beat my time and I'm really excited, or if there's like a peak to this and now I'm dropping off. But I'm struggling a little bit to concentrate. I'm not as focused as before, but I am still focused. So last 10 minutes, let's see if we can still beat this time. Cup of tea, time is up. I've had a full hour driving now, and yeah, basically let's look at some time. So I did consistently 120s for the first half an hour, I think, just over half an hour, and then I beat my time, so I was super happy. I then did another 120 after that, but I had a lot of spins as well. You can see here there's a lot of gaps, and then at the end I did 121. So my focus definitely dropped off. I felt my brain like wandering, thinking about other things and stuff, so my focus definitely went. So there was definitely an optimum to when this cup of tea worked, and yeah, I beat my time. I can't believe it. I'm quicker on a good old English cup of tea, so super happy. If you have any ideas that I could try, any drink or food, comment below. You know, if there's anything that you want me to try that you think that could make me faster, just let me know, and don't forget to like and subscribe.
Hey guys, welcome to the video. Today I'm going to be starting a series that I've been asked about for quite a while on my Twitch streams, which is how to...
Fermiamoci un attimo, perché ora si ritorna su Dirt Rally 2 dopo tanto tempo con Swaisic. E allora aspettate che rimando indietro il video perché Types and Tricks si dice? Che ignorante che sono, mamma mia. Quindi come si dice comunque suggerimenti e trucchetti per Dirt Rally 2, perché su Drive in Beta School non si parla solo di assetto corsa competizione o altri simulatori, si parla di tutto cioè di motori in genere. Poi a volte parleremo di simulazione, a volte si parlerà di tutte e due, a volte si parlerà solo della realtà, del reale, insomma man mano le cose sono queste, gli argomenti più o meno sono questi. Vabbè, ma bando alle ciance, facciamo partire lo special di Dirt Rally 2.0.
Hey guys, welcome to the video. Today I'm going to be starting a series that I've been asked about for quite a while on my Twitch streams, which is how to, basically my tips on how to drive different classes of cars. So today I'm going to break down in the first video in this series how to drive the 3 different classes of cars in Dirt Rally 2.0: front wheel drive, all wheel drive, and rear wheel drive. Hope you guys like it. So for a quick little demonstration of how to drive these different classes, I'm going to go into free roam, and I'm going to go to the Dirtfish Rally School, which I highly suggest for everybody starting the game to go into here, pick a car. It doesn't really matter, whatever your favorite car is, go into free roam and just play around. You'll really get a sense of how the car is going to react and handle. And you can do this over and over and over for as long as you feel. If there's a new technique you want to learn, this is a great way to do it. I'm going to start with the Lancia because I feel that most people, this is probably going to be the car that they start playing the game with. I believe it's one of the very first cars that's unlocked. So I'm just going to give you some tips and on how front wheel drive cars handle and how to properly drive them. So we're in our menu. I'm going to go down to tune vehicle. I'm going to make sure, okay, this is the bone stock setup. I'm going to be doing this on all the cars today in the video. This is all the exact same setup. What you're going to want to do, well, number one, don't kill the car. But
lui non ha postazione, vedete, cioè seduto alla scrivania in pratica, quindi nonostante tutto, insomma, riesce a divertirsi.
It's a little difficult.
Ora qui è nel piazzale,
Really get the
quindi
car to swing its weight around. You can, but it's a little difficult. It's a little bit easier on dirt. So to do that, you're gonna do what's called a Scandinavian flick. And the thing with front wheel drive cars is you don't really want to counter steer with front wheel drive cars a whole lot. They don't really handle counter steering very well. They do, but they don't. So the biggest thing.
Però c'è da dire una cosa, che comunque io ho scelto questo video perché lui è bravo alla fine a spiegare un po' le basi, quindi secondo me va benissimo, ma lasciamolo andare avanti.
And now, especially for sharp corners as well, so I'll show you here. For sharp corners, they handle much better. The gearing on this car isn't exactly the best, but so what you can do, and as you can see from my brake inputs, I should have maybe kept that in first, but they don't like to counter steer very much. So you're better off slowing down and keeping your wheels at a constant angle as opposed to where you want to go. Just like that. So the front wheel drive cars, you're not really going to be doing a whole lot of sliding, but you're just going to want to keep the wheel at a constant angle. The other thing you're going to want to do, and this goes across all classes of cars, you're going to want to just before every corner, for the most part, not every corner, you're going to want to hit the brakes so that you can balance the weight of the car forward and you can get grip to come around on your corners, because otherwise, if you don't, what ends up happening is you lose your grip and you understeer and you plow forward. This spot right here is a really good spot to kind of get the hang of exactly how your car is going to do in a corner. The other thing with front wheel drive is you can see as I'm turning, you'll see that my throttle is not all the way depressed. Now the reason for that has something to do with the setup, and that is your differential lock. Because with the throttle fully depressed, your front differential will be fully locked, and you have more of an opportunity to basically cause your car to understeer and not grip in a corner. The other thing you can do in some shallower corners is instead of hitting the brake, I just want listen to that sound. So for some shallower corners, instead of hitting the brake, you can just let off the throttle, and that will cause enough weight to shift forward that you can still get enough of that weight transfer to go forward. Let's hop over to a rear-wheel drive car and I'll show you the difference there. So now we're going to hop over to the Ford Escort Mark II, which again, I'm using these cars because I assume most newer players, when you're starting out, this is probably going to be the first car in this class that you're going to buy. I believe it's also maybe the cheapest. I'm not 100% sure. So we'll load up the Ford in the Dirtfish Rally School, and I'll kind of show you how this car differs on the other end to the front wheel drive cars. Again, bone stock setup. This is exactly how the car comes from the factory, as you would say. Now these cars especially this one, counter steering is going to be much more of a thing. These cars are much more touchy to throttle and steering inputs than the front wheel drive cars are. So with these cars, the number one thing I can suggest is learn throttle input, because most of how this car is going to handle is completely dependent on your throttle input. Throttle input is going to be number one, and then after that it's going to be brake input. Oop. For that exact reason right there. With these cars, you're going to want to do the same thing. You're going to want to brake in front of a corner to shift the weight forward. It's going to happen a little bit more dramatically than it did on the front wheel drive cars. And the reason for that is because as soon as you get on the gas, all that weight transfer is now on the front wheels, and it's not much on the rear wheels. And so that makes it very, very easy for the rear wheels to break traction and come around. Now, as soon as you feel the rear end start to slide back out, that's when you're going to want to counter steer. And then from there, it's simply all throttle inputs and steering inputs to maintain an angle. Another technique you can use is what's called clutch kicks. Now you can use these if you're in maybe a little bit too high of a gear, or you've got a wide angle that you want to keep that. So that's as simple as kicking the clutch or if you want a quick adjustment of the angle. I messed that up right there, but so like if you're coming in too wide and you want to quickly adjust your angle, this works a little bit better in hairpins than it will in some shallow corners. However, it can be applied. I do not recommend it because it's not a very controlled. Also, I should note that the difference in driving surface makes a very big difference in all of this too. So as you can see here, when I'm on this tarmac surface, you will lose grip a little bit quicker. That's going to be the biggest thing for rear-wheel drive cars, is really learning how to throw the weight around and control the weight of your car. So throttle input, brake input, and steering input are going to be the two most important things in this class of car. Also, balancing the car. Balancing the car is much more important in a rear-wheel drive, simply because all of your power is coming out of one location. You really want to make sure that your car is perfectly balanced so you can get the grip in the exact spots that you need it. Because sometimes, obviously in straightaways, you're going to want the weight in the back of the car for the grip. And then when you're coming into a corner, you're going to want to shift that weight forward so that you can get the car to do what you want to do to get around the stage as fast as you possibly can in that drivetrain. That was your rear-wheel drive cars. Now let's go take a look at the all-wheel drive cars. All right, so now we're in the all-wheel drive Ford Fiesta in the R5 class. Again, completely stock setup, exactly as the car comes. Now this time, these are kind of an interesting mix between front-wheel and rear-wheel drive cars. So you still are going to want... You're still going to want to have that weight transfer of the rear-wheel drive cars, but you're not going to have the You're not going to have these excessive oversteer that you will with the rear-wheel drive cars. So what that means is essentially all you're going to want to do is basically point the wheels of the car in the direction you want to go. And that's pretty much it, really. That's all you're going to want to do. You're just going to want to point the wheels. If you find yourself coming in too wide, you can either let the gas off or you can tap the brakes a little bit, and that will get your car to rotate around very tightly. But otherwise, for the most part, the all-wheel drive cars are extremely easy to drive. All you really have to do is just point the wheels in the direction that you want to go. And the car will go. It's fairly simple. There's not much to it. They're very, very easy cars to drive. Now, you have two options that you can take. With how to get around sharp corners in these cars. And you can do it, you can actually do it in almost every class of car. It doesn't work very well in the front wheel drive cars, but I'll show it to you right now. It's called the Scandinavian Flick. So if you don't know what that is, the Scandinavian Flick is basically counter steer. Well, here, let me find a better spot for this to be used. We'll do it off this jump. So Scandinavian Flick, turn away from the corner, hit the brakes, shift the weight, turn into the corner, and then get on the gas. So this is a way, if you don't want to use a handbrake, this is a way to shift the weight of the car, shift the weight of the car around very quickly, and get it in the direction that you want to go. So the other alternative, and these are mainly used on very tight corners. So for the handbrake, it's literally just as simple. You just pull the handbrake, car rotates around very quickly. I prefer to stay away from this unless it's a very, very sharp hairpin, because the car sometimes can become very upset and you will lose control of the car. And that's not something that you want to do going 100 miles an hour down a very narrow pathway that you're not aware of. The other thing I can recommend in free play is there's lots of these little trails that you can take. Oh, where did that trail go now? Oh, here it is. There's lots of these little trails you can take. If you want to test your reaction times, drive down those trails as fast as you feel comfortable with, and just randomly pick. Say, I'm going to turn here, and try to take that corner as fast as you can. Now, the benefit to this is it's free play. So if you crash a car, whatever, no big deal. So a tip for taking a high-speed corner like that is, as you're driving straight, simply a little bit of steering input, tap the brake to shift the weight forward, and the car will kind of bring itself around for you. You don't really have to do a whole lot. Very, very simple. So you're gonna have to kind of spend some time getting used to how the car shifts its weight. And all these things can be adjusted in setups later, but that will be a future episode where I'll kind of explain how I set up cars in certain locations. Now that we've got that done, I'm going to take these cars to a stage. We're going to put them in a real stage, and I'll kind of do a breakdown of exactly how to implement these techniques in your driving. Okay, so we've got our cars in grease. Again, bone stock setups. This is exactly how exactly how these cars were in the free play. So I'm going to demonstrate on this stage here because there's a lot of things right away in the very beginning of the stage that are going to incorporate all those things that I talked about in the free play.
Keep left over 60, 3 left on cut, 30, slow 6 left long over crest into turn sudden, unseen, tight hairpin right.
So we'll brake the car.
And
Front wheel drive cars don't really do hairpins very well, so you're kind of going to have to take them slow.
left over 60, 6 right,
So again, slow the car down, hit the brakes,
keep left over
hold
crest
your
into
steering
sudden,
angle,
6 right,
and then lightly get back on the throttle.
long 100,
So then for this,
slow,
same thing.
open hairpin right,
just hold your angle,
opens,
brake. You can kind of counter steer a little bit just to give yourself a little bit more angle to work with.
6 right long over crest, into 6 left,
And going
right over
downhill,
crest,
your
30,
brake inputs are going to have to change just ever so slightly because you are going much faster.
5 right over crest, 50, 5
Oh,
right
I took that
tightens,
corner a little fast. So you can kind of use the Scandinavian flick on these cars a little bit.
Over crest jump and slow crest.
It doesn't work the best,
into unseen
but it does
tight
work in a
right.
pinch.
Dip
These old
30,
cars don't really get a
unseen
whole lot of
into
grip.
tree.
So this section can be a little difficult in some of these older cars.
5 left over dip and crest, slow 50, unseen heavy left.
Now, what you could also do, which I mentioned before, if you so choose, is you can use the handbrake.
Unseen tight hairpin right.
I don't like to use the handbrake in older cars that didn't actually have a handbrake. That's just my personal preference on how to play. So you can do it however you want, but for me personally, I like to play the game where if the car in real life didn't have a handbrake, I don't use it in game.
Left 40, 6 right tightens, 30.
So however feels more comfortable for you, or however feels more fun, if you'd like an extra challenge, I would highly recommend not using the handbrake on older cars that did not have one.
Very long, tightens. Into short 6 left.
So you can see right there coming over that hump, I hit the brakes just a little bit, and that was to balance the car coming over that crest, because as you go over that crest, you're going to lose grip in the front wheels of your car, and there's a very good chance that you will miss that very sharp corner because you're just coming over a crest, and at the end of that long straight, you're going to be going very fast. So that is my tip for front wheel drive cars in a real life situation, and especially there's little things like that, like going over crests, you're going to want to tap the brakes. Now let's do that exact same stage in a rear wheel drive car, and I'll kind of show you again those same techniques. There's going to be a lot more counter steering, a lot more throttle modulation, much more throttle control. All right, so now I've got our Ford Mark II. Again, same thing, bone stock setup.
Keep left over 60, 3 left on cut, 30, slow 6 left long over crest into turn sudden.
A little bit of counter steer.
Right.
Again, heavy on the brakes.
4 left long, opens.
And you can kind of use the throttle to get it around really tight hairpins like that. Again, you have to be careful, especially in these old rear-wheel drive cars.
6 right.
It's very, very easy to lose the rear end.
100. Slow, turn, open hairpin right. Opens. 100. Over crest.
Oh, I lost it. And that's why throttle control is very, very important. All of your timing on doing the Scandinavian flick in a rear-wheel drive car.
Ecco, io direi di aggiungere questa curva a quelle come non fare una curva a un tornante.
To lose the rear end of the car,
Right tightens.
and you'll spin exactly just the same way I did. Oh, might help if I actually caught the gear.
4, long tightens. Into 4, right of a jump. Opens 5, extra long, 50, 6 left, tightens, turn early, 5 over crest jump, into
One other thing that you can do if you find yourself rotating too much, one of the things that I like to do
into 6 left, opens of a crest jump,
is let off the throttle, hit the clutch,
into unseen
downshift 1 gear. That typically will give the rear end of your car enough time
left of a 30, 6 right,
to catch in the grip,
40, middle of a crest into 6 left,
and you can save yourself from spinning.
happy left,
In very sharp corners, you generally don't have enough time to do this.
70.
However, in some bigger corners,
6 right long, to bump and dip 30,
in some bigger corners,
right happy
it will
left,
sometimes
3.
give you just enough grip to keep yourself.
Keep right of a 80. 5 left of a dip and crest, slow 50, unseen happy left.
So as you can see around some of these really tight hairpins, I'm just kind of feathering the throttle,
4 on of a crest,
just giving it enough
downhill, unseen
to kind of
tight
pop the
happy
car
right.
around the corner
Into
and come
6
out very,
left
very
of a crest,
smoothly.
And 4 right long, opens 30.
Except for that one. That one I messed the timing up on. But you have to be very, very careful. It really doesn't take a whole lot,
Cut.
and you can pop the car around that corner.
Left long of a crest, opens of a crest, into 6 right,
But again, you will be doing much more counter steering
6 right tightens,
in a front-wheel drive car
30, 6 right to
than you would in a front
6
wheel.
left, 50, tight, 4 left of a crest, into turn 2 right tightens. Opens 5, very long, tightens, into short 6 left, 30, 6 left, opens long, to keep middle of a crest, 50, keep right of a crest, into 5 left, middle of an 80, 6 right, on the finish, to stop. Well done.
Much more steering corrections going on because the rear-wheel drive cars, as I said, are very sensitive to throttle inputs. And if your car is not balanced properly or at an angle that you don't want, you can very easily lose control of the car and spin. So throttle inputs are going to be the number one thing with a rear-wheel drive car. Steering, throttle, brake inputs. All of that stuff is extremely important in the rear-wheel drive cars. So now let's go to the Fiesta. We'll do that exact same stage, and you can kind of see the all-wheel drive cars are kind of a mix of the rear wheel and the front wheel drive cars. Now, all of this stuff can all change slightly depending on how your setup is. But as I said earlier, I'll cover that in a different video. If that's something that you guys are interested in seeing. So if you do want to see a setup video based on the 3 different classes of cars, go ahead and drop a comment down below. Tell me that you want the setup video, and I'll make a setup video. All right, we've got our Fiesta. Same thing, stock tuning. Let's take this car out, and we'll see what we can do.
Keep left of a 60, 3 left on cut. 30, slow 6 left long of a crest into turn sudden, unseen, tight hairpin right. And
Now in these tight hairpins,
opens,
because this is a newer car that has a handbrake,
6
I will
right,
tend to use it much
keep
more
left of a
often.
crest into sudden, 6
However,
right, into 6
as I said, I do try to avoid it as much as possible
slow, turn open hairpin
because
right.
it can make the car very unpredictable.
Opens 100 of a crest.
You can use it to get the initial brake
into 6 left.
in traction in the rear of the car.
Right of a crest.
However,
30,
I do
left
recommend
long, tightens 4 of a dip.
doing the rest of the hairpin
Crest, 50. 5 right tightens.
all with throttle and
Jump.
steering.
Caution narrow 4 right.
Throttle, steering, and brake inputs.
Into 3 left. Opens 4. Long tightens. Into 4 right of a jump. Opens 5. Extra long. 50. 6 left. Tightens turn early. 5 of a crest jump. Into 6 right. Very long. To keep middle of a crest. 100. Downhill. Slow. Unseen. Open hairpin left.
So again, the Scandinavian flick
6 right.
on the brakes, counter steer,
Into 6
turn in,
left. Opens of a crest
get the
jump.
brake in traction with the weight
Slow
transfer,
crest jump into
and boom,
unseen, tight
you're around the
hairpin
corner
right.
and going.
Keep left of a 30. 6 right.
Uh-oh.
40.
I did that a little too early. So
Middle of a crest into
as I was
6
saying
left,
before,
so
when you're
30,
going
unseen,
downhill,
left.
a lot of these things you're going to want to do early because your car is going much faster and the weight is working against you.
6 right long. To bump and
So you're going to want to do a lot of these
unseen, tight
inputs
in right to
just
3.
slightly early because the car is going to be falling
5 left of a dip and
as you're
crest.
doing it.
Slow 50, unseen heavy left.
So just keep that in mind, especially in a stage like this where all these hairpins are downhill.
50 downhill, unseen, tight hairpin right. Into 6 left of a crest, and 4 right long, opens 30.
And again, throttle modulation to get yourself through that corner and keep the car rotating.
Into 4 left of a cut. 4 right, and 4 left long of a crest, opens of a crest, into 6 right. Into 6 left,
Ooh.
40.
I guess they didn't need that sign.
30, 6 right to crest, 6 left, 50.
And again, slight brake inputs to keep the car balanced through this fast section on some of these very tight,
Opens 5,
flowing
very
corners.
long, tightens, into short 6 left.
And that's going to help balance the car so that you don't end up understeering in the corner going at that speed. So just very, very slight brake inputs.
Middle of an 80,
Balance the car.
6 right of the finish to stop. Well done.
So there we go. That's kind of my tips and tricks. Not necessarily tricks, I guess, but tips and techniques for driving the various classes of cars that you'll come across in Dirt Rally. You know, there may be some things that I missed. I will say front wheel drive is not my favorite class, so I don't drive them very often. I'm sure there's probably something that I missed. So if there is, let me know in the comments down below. I can always update it in a future video because I will be breaking things down more per class in later videos in the series. All right, guys, that's it for the video. I hope you really enjoyed it. You know, don't forget to like, comment what you thought. If I missed something or if you have another very specific question, be sure to type that in the comments down below. I will try to answer it as best as I possibly can. But that is it for me. Again, I'm trying to make this into a series. So, you know, I'll be breaking things down in the future. This was just a basics on how to drive the different classes of drivetrain in the game. You know, later I'll break it down into per car class because they do differ. You know, the 2000cc cars and the R5 cars and the Group A cars all have their different little differences between the two of them. Also setups per location is another thing to keep in mind as well. But for right now, I just wanted to start it off with the different car classes as far as drivetrain are concerned. So if you have any other questions, again, be sure to type them down in the comments, or you can always catch me live on Twitch at twitch.tv/roadsidetv every Thursday playing Dirt Rally. You can always come in, ask me questions while I'm live and streaming, and I will always try my best to answer them as I play. So that's it for me, guys. Thank you for watching the video. I'll see you next time.
E siamo arrivati alla fine di questa puntata, di questa replica più che altro, perché in realtà poi alla fine è una replica. Cosa è successo? La telecamera si deve essere spenta. Un attimo, ragazzi. Sono rimasto senza alimentazione al gimbal. Aiuto. Niente, quindi cam spenta, gimbal spento, non ho possibilità in questo momento di collegarla diversamente, quindi mi dispiace, ora non vi posso salutare con il mio brutto faccione, però potete ascoltare la mia voce. Comunque avevo in mente una cosa, io non so ora, aspettate un attimo che guardo. Per concludere in bellezza, io direi che si potrebbe anche fare una cosa. Mi piacerebbe tanto mettere Cam Block, un video di Cam Block. Ne ho diversi. Ho voglia di riguardare uno delle sue performance, perché comunque Allora abbiamo Gincana 5, Gincana 4, la 3. Ho anche un documentario che parla del suo incidente, di quello che è successo, però non mi piace mettere cose tristi, insomma, ricordare la parte. Quindi io direi che non è neanche tanto lungo, se funziona, se va che non ci sono problemi. Scusate, colpo di tosse, scusate. Io metterei quasi qua, sarei tentato Dubai o se no Ultimate Urban Playground, dovrebbe essere molto bello anche questo. Andiamo con questo, proviamolo. Io lo apro un attimo in anteprima e vediamo cosa succede. Intanto ascoltiamo anche lì, però ecco. Che macchina, ragazzi, c'ha sempre delle vetture questa Fiestina qui, mi fa impazzire. Aveva, purtroppo non c'è, abbiamo perso un grande pilota spettacolare, veramente un pilota di rally. Gincana 5, ce lo guardiamo, dai. San Francisco. Boia, le vibrazioni, guarda questa curva come la fa. La macchina è mostruosa. Il nostro pilota italiano di San Marino, Paolo Diana, che saluto, anche lui c'ha il piede pesante, è uno di quelli che c'ha il piede pesante. Oltre alla bravura, io sono convinto che anche la macchina gli permetta proprio di fare tutti questi numeroni, proprio tutti i cavalli che ha una potenza incredibile, una trazione impressionante. Guarda lì, una stampa di una senza modello, comunque è configurata apposta per fare questi numeri. Lui era veramente uno sposo unico, no, unico non si può dire, perché c'è anche Pastrana che è forte in queste cose. Due stili diversi, però due non volevo fare il paragone, è venuto così brutto con la live. Aia, mi sa che era una GoPro qui interna. che i lavori che facevi. Niente musica, la musica non la possiamo passare, quindi vi lascio con questi gabbiani, con l'immagine di Ken Block, e ce lo ricordiamo così, fortissimo, spettacolo proprio. Ragazzi, buonanotte a tutti da Paolo, da Rust 696 e da Rust Race TV. Buonanotte, ciao ciao.